No, it's not a Jackson Pollock painting. My 2-year-old granddaughter has taken over my old Moleskine sketchbook, so I decided to get a new one. And we took my granddaughter to the farm park. It was a boiling hot day, and we'd been having a heat wave, and so she had to wear her sun hat because we had great difficulties keeping that on. There's a TV program called Bing, which was originally written by a friend of mine, Ted Dewan, and I remember him excitedly showing me the artwork before it was first published, because he did it all in vector graphics, and he was telling me how fantastic detail you could get, etc., etc. And I never knew that one day I'd be watching Bing with my granddaughter. There's a character in Bing called Pando, and in every program he takes his shorts off and just wanders around in his underpants. And foolishly, I've drawn my granddaughter's attention to this, and so she acts like Pando, and she doesn't take her pants off, she doesn't take her shorts off, but she takes things off, like her leggings or her hat. So when it's boiling hot and she's getting overheating, can you get the hat on? No, you manage to get the hat on, and whoosh, she flings it away. But so we're ignoring it at the moment, hoping that she'll kind of move on. So you go to the farm park to see the animals, and what do? You spend the whole time in the play park, really. Not watching the animals at all, but watching your granddaughter climb up and down things. And after a while I thought, I really should be drawing this. And so I got my sketchbook out. But it's a funny old thing about getting a sketchbook out while there are children around, because you don't want people to be suspicious. So it's okay when you're a grandpa and you've got a grandchild, you can do that. But you can't just sort of go wandering off into a children's playground and start drawing children. They'll call the police and get you arrested. And a lovely Shirley Hughes, the illustrator, who was wonderful to me. I remember when I first started out, I joined the Society of Authors, and the first thing I could go to was a summer party. Went along as this very innocent new children's book illustrator, and Shirley Hughes was there, and she kind of welcomed me, and I think she was on the committee at the time. And so, oh dear, good, it's so wonderful to have young blood. You must be half the age of everyone in this room, she said. And I think she was probably right. And she said to me, you must draw every day. And I've never forgotten that, and she was absolutely right. And she did, she drew every day, but she was very privileged in a way, because where she lived, there's a wonderful TV documentary about her, and she lived in this place in London where there was like all the buildings, all the houses were they were terraced, and in the middle was this great big it's like a park, it's a shared garden. And so after school she could go wandering off into this garden, and all the children would be playing there because it was a nice safe environment, and all the mums were there, and she could draw, and everybody knew, oh, it's Shirley, oh, and they'd be thinking, oh, how wonderful, she's drawing our children, it's Shirley Hughes drawing our children. If I went off into a playground and started drawing children, it'd be, oh my God, who is this bloke? He's very suspicious, quick, call the police. So it's good to have a granddaughter with you, but you still need to be kind of slightly careful, I suppose. Not careful, discreet, that's the word I'm looking for. I wonder I think it might be different for a woman if a woman went into just a playground on their own and started drawing the kids there. I don't think she would draw so much attention. Now you see, I'm back in the studio trying to remember. So I think it would be very different if I got my paints out, because then you become very much more obvious. And so I think, there are places you can go, aren't there? And the places that might be a little bit more dangerous to go and sketch and get your paints out. Although you just can't be sure, can you? Some places you think, oh, this is a little bit edgy, and you get your paints out and start drawing, and people are just fascinated, and they want to see what you're doing. And then other places where you think you're safe, somebody will get, what do you think you're doing here? I've got rights, you can't just come along. So I don't know what the answer is. I suppose if you want to just sort of secretly draw people, then you have to find a little secret hiding place where people won't spot you, I suppose. And now we need some quite dark shadows here, I think. Yeah, because if you don't want people to spot what you're doing, and you just want to be able to sort of do, what is it, candid, that's the word. If you just want to do some candid drawing, and then you need to find a quiet little spot and just quietly get on with it. I suppose you have to sort of learn the trick of invisibility. And I think that's something that sort of famous people learn. They just learn to be invisible. I remember as a student in art college in Cambridge, I'd sometimes go into town on a Saturday, and as I was walking home, once or twice, I walked past Clive James, who was a sort of a TV personality at the time. He had a chat show, and he just had this way of walking and not being noticed. And then our eyes met one time, and it was just this kind of, he had these really twinkly eyes on the TV and in real life, and it was just a minor acknowledgement that that I know that you know who I am, and that yes I am Clive James, and etc etc. Yeah, he'd learned that kind of trick of being invisible, and so he could just walk down the high street, and maybe people would think, hey, wait a minute, and then he'd be gone past by the stage they thought that. And they go, oh, that was Clive James, rather than, hey, aren't you Clive James? So there we are. That's a quick little sketch, or quick little colouring in, should I say. So what happened? I was looking at the slide. So the slide was this sort of metal thing like that. So we can have that coming down here, something like that. And then, I'm going to have to put lots of the brown mush in. Oh, that's too mushy. And underneath the slide were these little trees were growing quite happily. And I suppose in the rest of it, it was all this bark mulch stuff, all around. And I suppose the kids were all just leaping about in this stuff, and any other little saplings that started growing there would just get trampled on, wouldn't they? And so that being right underneath the slide, it gave them some protection. And they were just sort of these absolutely perfect little plants. Perfect little saplings. And each of them was like what was a miniature tree. It was a sapling beginning its life. I don't think it was going to get very far, because eventually someone is going to come along, a gardener or whoever was looking after the place is going to come along and go, no, you're not going to live there, because that's the definition of a weed, is a plant growing in the wrong place. So these are those kind of log things which they stick in the ground as a kind of little mini wall. And then we're going to need some shadow here as well, so I'm going to put that there, quite serious shadow, because it was really beating down kind of sun. And there'll be some shadow under these as well, which makes me think actually this should be much darker around here, because it was quite shiny, so we want to get a shiny feel to that. And then a bit of darkness underneath there too, like that. Actually this side will be quite dark. And it just struck me that this was kind of nature clinging on, finding an environment that it could exist in. And the poor things are thinking, yay! I got my place in the forest, I'm all set up. And then somebody's going to go, and pull them out. Which sometimes happens to humans, doesn't it? And it's just when you think that everything is going smoothly, that's when you get pulled up. It's, particularly if you're thinking everything's going smoothly, that's when hubris comes to get you. Nemesis, no, you're exhibiting hubris, and Nemesis comes to get you. Nemesis is the god of retribution, is it? Who comes to get you when you think you're doing really, really well. So I'm going to put slide with saplings underneath, just to remind myself what that was about. So we did actually get to see some chickens. There was a PA announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to come down to the chicken area, somebody, I can't remember her name, will be showing the chickens. And she's very enthusiastic and wants you to come. They were absolutely right. She was very enthusiastic. And she loved her chickens. So down we went to see her. And she was showing us these two little bantams. And she was most enthusiastic. So we had children and parents and a lot of grandparents. It was very funny. My granddaughter observed. So there I was with my Panama. Well, I didn't want a Panama. Anyway, I had a straw hat on. And there were several other gentlemen of a certain age with similar hats and Panamas and things like that on. And so whenever my granddaughter saw one of them, she would describe them as a grandpa. And she was absolutely right each time, because you could see that they were grandparents there with their grandchildren while their parents were at work. So I'll just give it a little bit down there for her lips. She's going to want a bit of something underneath there for sort of shadow. She had sort of browny kind of hair. Oh, it was a ponytail, that's right, yeah. These chickens had been bred in an incubator on this farm. So they've been handled from the word go, and they've obviously got used to being shoved around, saying, here, look, children. Yes, of course you can stroke them. And they just sit there and go, it's my job. It's what I do. I get stroked by children. I get shown 3 times a day. So one was a cockerel. This is Larry is the cockerel. And the other one, Hetti, she obviously says, I just want to lay eggs. That's what all I want to do is lay eggs. And they drag me out every morning and they make me do this. And I was quite surprised. She asked if anybody knew about chickens, anybody ever had hens. And I put my hand up. Oh! So I was the only one. She said, oh, what did you have? So I said, oh. I said, he used to have black rocks. Oh! She said, I'd have thought there might have been a couple more than that, but no. Right, so Larry was basically white and speckly with a very, very bright red comb, bright red wattles, and Hetti was basically brown. So as you can see, I'm not being, madly. It's not a photographic interpretation, is it? That's what I suppose is what I'm trying to say. Does she have speckles? I can't remember, but I'm going to give her some because it just makes it a bit more interesting. So none of this is like a photographic interpretation, is it? And it's just a sort of memory, and it's about paying attention to what's going on. So I was paying attention while I was drawing, but I'm paying attention now as well because I'm just taking the time to do it. I'm not on a smartphone. And I'm just taking the time to think about this, and at the same time I'm kind of remembering the moment, remembering the time and the day as I'm telling you the stories about it. And I'm kind of developing a philosophy about this, about the art of attention. And that's really what sketching is about. I think when I started, I thought it was all about looking at the shapes and things, and I don't know, and getting it done, drawing. But in fact, sketching is about being there in the moment. It's the time that you're spending noticing, paying attention. And what you're doing is not being on a smartphone where your attention is being demanded of you. It is being stolen. It's being grabbed. And attention is something, it is a gift that you have to give or to pay. The smartphone just steals it. But you can gain agency by saying, no, I'm not going to sit there doom scrolling all day. I'm going to go and sit in the park and I'm going to draw something. Or I'm just going to sit on my balcony, on my patio, whatever it is. I'm going to draw a flower. I'm going to draw my friend who's sitting opposite me drinking coffee. And that is paying attention. And the time that you spend doing it will be repaid in future, because this is the moment that the art happens. And I'll expand my philosophy as time goes on, because I'm still working it out about basically where art comes from. And I think it comes from paying attention. So I'll tell you more about that as things progress in the weeks to come. So thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to the Shoo Rayner Drawing channel and keep coming back for lots more. And in the meantime, keep drawing. Practice like I've always said. And I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye-bye.